Hi, I'm Lois Beres at KZGN-TV, and this is Ridgecrest Talk. And today, after a long time away, I'm back and I'm talking with Forrest Lloyd, who is one of those remarkable people in Ridgecrest that I like to sit and talk to. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself and a lot about Rotary and some of the things that he's involved with. So, are you a native of Ridgecrest?
I am not. I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Oh my goodness, that's a ways away.
It is. It's a long ways away. You're absolutely correct.
So how in the world did you get here? I know that's a long story, but...
Well, when I graduated from high school, it turned out that education was a little cheaper in California than it was in Pennsylvania. And so I came out, and I have an aunt that lives down in Palm Springs area.
Ah.
So I stayed with her, and I went to 2 years a junior college down there called College of the Desert.
Okay. Now we have a picture when you were somewhat smaller than you are now.
Yes.
Can we get that shown and tell me who's in that picture and where it is?
Well, that picture was taken in Pennsylvania, where I grew up in a little town called Drums.
Oh my goodness, where is that? Close to anything?
It's near Hazleton or the coal mining areas.
Oh,
eastern part of Pennsylvania near the Poconos.
It looks like a lot of land. Was it a farm area?
It was.
Okay, did you do farming? Did you
Well, my parents didn't, but there was a dairy farm nearby, and
Okay.
so I spent a lot of my time on the dairy farm because that's where the action was at. I got to work with the farm hands, and I got to drive tractors and feed cows.
Whoa, how fun! Yeah, my
well,
husband,
when your parents don't own it, it's fun.
yeah, it is, and you didn't have to do it, right?
That's right.
It was one
Didn't
of those
have to
things
do
you could
it.
walk away from. There's a couple of cute little girls there. Are they?
Now they're my sisters.
Okay.
And one of my sisters and my brother hadn't been born yet.
Oh, okay.
So that's
there were
3 of the 5 of us.
5 of you.
There was 5 total.
Okay.
Yes.
And then are they still in Pennsylvania?
My sister Lynn, who is just next to me, she has a horse ranch up in Reno.
Oh, how neat!
And
All right.
oh yeah, she has a good time with horses. That's been her
Okay.
love for her whole life.
And we
And
were
we
just
had
talking-
horses when we lived in Pennsylvania.
Oh, did you? All right. What kind?
Ponies.
Ponies. Okay.
Ponies.
Well, that's cool. You had
And
ponies.
then my other sister that's there, that's on the far, was at, I guess left? No, right.
It's hard to say when
Yeah.
you're looking at this.
Anyway,
the
the
littlest
shortest
sister,
one.
right.
The shortest one. She
The
lives in
short
Upper New York
sister.
State, and she grows herbs.
Oh, for heaven's
And
sake.
she and her husband have a very successful herb business, and
Wow.
and it's organic.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
So
Okay, so now we got you out of Pennsylvania, and you went to San Diego to go to college.
actually, I went to Cathedral City, which is near Palm Springs.
Oh, okay.
And I went to College of the Desert, and I went there for 2 years.
Okay. Do we have a picture of that? or-
We don't, but
okay.
we
but
do
there's
have
something that happened while you were in college.
While I was in junior college, I met Kay, who's become my wife,
Okay.
and that's a picture of
Kay.
her when we first started dating.
Ah.
And we were that picture was taken in Palm Springs, and we were getting ready to go to the beach, and I had never surfed in my life, and that's a surfboard on the back.
Does she know how?
No, she didn't know how. We
Oh,
still
it's
don't
just
know how.
a
We didn't
bunch
learn a
of-
whole lot.
Neophytes going on trying for it.
Exactly.
And you're on that really cool car. You don't still happen to have that, do you?
Don't have that anymore,
Oh.
but that's a 1952 Pontiac that actually belonged to my aunt. And
How
it was my
cool.
aunt that I was living with there.
Well, that'd be really neat to have now, wouldn't it?
It would be. It absolutely would be. It'd be
So
a
you were
collector's
down there
item.
and you were in college at College of the Desert.
Exactly.
Okay, and was that a 4-year college or?
No, it was a 2-year college.
Okay.
And I completed 2 years there, and I graduated there with an AA. I didn't get my AA until later, but I actually completed all my requirements by 68.
Okay. And what was that in? Business or-
It was science.
Science.
I
Okay.
took mostly science classes.
I get it. Okay.
Chemistry, physics, math.
And then you left there.
Well, what happened is I was going to transfer to San Diego State, and my girlfriend at that time, Kay, was going to San Diego State. And
She's still your girlfriend. No.
and now she's my wife and my
Right.
girlfriend.
You got it.
We've got a lot of
Anyway,
years behind us.
Isn't that fun?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. But what happened is that the Vietnam War was going very strong in 1968, and they were drafting
Yeah,
a
it was.
lot of college kids, and I got drafted while I was transitioning from one college to the other.
Oh my gosh. And there's a picture of you. I would not recognize that of you now.
I've changed.
Yeah.
I've got gray
Okay.
hair now, and I've put on some weight, and yeah. So
Wow.
I got drafted into Vietnam, or I got drafted and I went to Vietnam.
Pretty much that's the way it happened. If you got drafted, you were on the road to
Yes,
Vietnam, pretty much.
that's correct.
Yeah.
So
and they didn't give you a student because you were between colleges, or
I wasn't.
deferment?
I hadn't gotten accepted into San Diego State.
Oh, I get it.
So I was in
Okay.
transition, and I guess at that time I decided I wanted to get my military
Get out of the way,
obligation out of the
yeah.
way.
Because so many, in that time you had an obligation.
I had an
Young men did,
obligation. I wanted to
yeah.
get it over with. So I felt that if I went and got my obligation over, then I'd just go to college when I got home, which
And
is
in
what I
that
did.
picture, there's a beautiful dog. Was that part of what you did there?
It
or-
was. I was a dog handler in Vietnam.
Oh,
That was Beano, and I was a scout dog handler. And
Okay.
our job was to walk point in front of a recon platoon or a rifle company.
oh wow.
And our main job
Scouting out.
was scouting out to keep us from walking into ambushes.
Oh, good. So you could do it, and the others didn't.
Well, the goal was to keep those units from walking into ambushes,
Right.
and I was 100% successful. We never walked into an ambush.
That's
ever.
awesome. The dog helped you then.
The dog did.
Oh, that's
the dog made it
wonderful.
possible to avoid ambushes, and
Did you do training together, you and the dog?
we did. Well, when I was in the United States, I trained another dog, and it takes a year to train a dog and 3 months to train a handler.
Oh my gosh.
So I got my training and trained another dog, and then I came to Vietnam. This dog had been shot just before I arrived, and it had a bullet. It had been shot in the leg, and they medevaced it down to Saigon, put it in a field hospital, or a hospital there, a veterinarian hospital.
Okay, I'm going to have you hold that thought. We'll come back and talk about it. We're going to be out of here for about 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. We're going to take a break. Okay, you're back with Lois and Forrest, and we were just getting him into Vietnam with his dog Beano.
Beano, that's correct.
That's
Beano.
cool. Tell me a little bit more about that, and then we'll.
Okay, so Beano was trained as a scout dog, and we walked in point in front of a recon platoon or rifle company to
amazing.
keep us from walking into ambushes, and it was a very, very successful program.
That's
And
great.
so the dog did its job, and I got home without a scratch.
That's remarkable. With that particular job, you would think that would be a lot more stressful than
It was
another.
the dog handlers had a 30% chance of being killed over the period of a month, but it was much less than if you were walking point without a dog.
I imagine, because
So
they
the-
have a better sense of smell
Right.
and hearing and stuff.
They
than
have better.
humans do.
They can smell and hear much better than us.
Amazing.
And so the dog would work out in front of me as far out as I could. I kept the dog out as far away as I could and still see the dog. And the dog always picked up on ambushes or people.
And then you radio back, or
I actually was right in front of the unit that I was leading, and I had 2 bodyguards with me.
Okay.
And so as soon as we detected something, the bodyguards would kind of protect me while I was watching the dog. And then once we detected something, our job was done and we withdrew. So we would go to the back, and then
and
the
they
rest,
go do whatever
the
they're
other
supposed
unit,
to do.
the unit that I was supporting would take over.
Okay, so somewhere in between the college and Vietnam, or after Vietnam, you were married.
That's correct. When I came home on June 1st of 1970.
Okay.
Got married on July 11th,
Wow, did he have it made? It must have been already done for him.
and my wife
That's
did all.
great.
I mean, my wife to be did all the work. So
That's
she-
pretty
all the
cool.
planning and organizing.
Love
she
it.
did.
That's
She
great.
did a
And
good
that was
job.
Pennsylvania?
No, we got married in Indio, California.
Oh,
which
is she from California?
She's from California. She grew up in Indio,
Oh, okay.
and Indio and Palm Desert.
so
and,
she doesn't mind the heat here so much because it's hot down there too.
That's right. She was acclimated.
Kind of used to it. So
Yeah. So that's
Okay.
where we got married.
All right. And we needed to go a little bit more into Vietnam and some of the theories behind it, or
Well,
something you wanted
we
to
can
talk
come
about?
to that later when my daughter and
Okay.
I went over there
Okay,
in
that's great.
2006.
So let's see what our next picture is. then.
So
Okay, so you came to Ridgecrest after you were married?
after we were married, after I completed my college, I got a degree in math,
Okay.
and showed up here at China Lake in August of 1973, and went to work for the base, and I worked for them for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's so it's a very good career, very interesting work. I was a software engineer.
Okay.
And the base was just starting to, the government lab was just starting to get used to working with software, and it wasn't well known. It was treated more like an art than it was an engineering endeavor.
Exactly. When my husband came up here, he put the first computer thing in network in the hangar out there.
Okay.
And it was pretty new then. That was already 88.
88.
So you were real new.
I was
when it
real
was just
new,
beginning.
and I didn't. The way I was taught software at San Diego State is it was we learned how to program and do algorithms and what have you, but we didn't approach it as an engineering endeavor.
Oh.
And neither did the Navy when I arrived, and that was a problem.
It was something like, this is engineering and this is computer.
Yes, and
Wow.
we didn't seem to have that connection.
I see.
So during my career at China Lake, I evolved with the China Lake organization
Interesting.
to develop these skills, and so it was
Oh,
it
man.
was a learning experience, and it was a completely a change in paradigm.
And exciting too, because
And
it was all
exciting.
new.
It was
That
all
seems like
new.
would just be so great. A lot more exciting, I would think, than something that you knew you could go into and you knew what was going to happen. I mean, you had something new every day.
Well, I didn't know
probably.
that until I showed up.
Would you have changed your mind? We'll talk about that later. No. Well, that's great, but you enjoyed being here.
It was a
and
very
working
good
on base.
career at China Lake.
Did you work in all the buildings? Or
I worked in a lot of different disciplines. I
Okay.
worked on validating aircraft software. I worked on Tomahawk. I worked on training ranges, training devices, aircrew
Wow.
trainers,
Oh, that's neat.
sensors. So it was a very, very interesting and exciting career
Oh, it
I had at
was.
China Lake.
And now you're retired from that.
And now I'm retired.
Yeah. When
During
you-
that time, oh, I'm sorry.
No, let's go ahead. I was going to ask the same thing.
The picture here is my family, my
Oh,
wife
okay.
and our 3 children that grew up here in Ridgecrest. They all grew up in.
Went to school here,
went to
graduated out
school
of
here.
Beres.
We did spend 1 year down in Palm Springs.
Oh.
I tried real estate and it didn't work out so well.
There's a talent for that, too.
So my one son, Sean, my oldest, he graduated from Palm Desert High.
Oh, okay. And then the others went to Beres.
But everybody else graduated from Burroughs,
Okay.
correct.
And,
So-
and now they're adults and on their
Now
own.
they're adults and they're out doing their own thing.
Isn't that exciting?
Yes.
That's neat. So where do we go from here? What's our...
Okay, let's jump ahead to 2004. In
Okay.
2004, I decided to make a trip back to Vietnam. The purpose of the trip was to kind of see just how Vietnam was doing and how they had things had changed since I left in 1970 during the war. My daughter was finishing up her senior year in college in Spain at the
Ah,
time.
In Spain.
In
Wow.
Spain. And when she found out I was going to Vietnam, she sent me an email and said I couldn't go without her. So,
well, that's a good deal for
Well,
you.
I hadn't seen my daughter for 3 years, and if my
Okay.
daughter was willing to travel with me to Vietnam, boy, I
Oh,
was
how
just thrilled.
exciting. You're right.
It was
Oh,
exciting.
that's wonderful.
So I postponed the trip, and she flew home from Spain to LAX. I met her, and we climbed on an airplane and went to Vietnam.
She didn't come up here. She'd gotten
Didn't come up here. We didn't have time.
Oh, my gosh.
Uh,
Okay.
Yes, and I was in Rotary by that time.
Okay. And we're going to talk about Rotary here in a minute, too.
Yeah, so
It's a really good group.
Rotary's
Yeah.
a wonderful organization. I joined that in 1999 or 98.
Okay.
So when I went to Vietnam, my club told me that I ought to go over there and look for a Rotary project. And that wasn't my plan, so I was going to
you
go over.
still were going to go anyway.
I was
yeah.
going to go. My plan was to have a low profile and just kind of see the country and
See where you'd been.
see where I'd been. And my daughter joined me, and that was a change. And then
Mm-hmm.
Rotary said you go over there and you need to work on a project. And suddenly it
wow.
went from it was anything but low profile. It became very high profile.
I imagine. Wow.
Yes.
But you were able to get back and see some of the places you'd
Well,
been.
I was, and there was a Rotarian over there that we met up with, and she arranged we spent 20 days there, and she arranged our entire trip.
Oh my gosh! So that did totally change what you were thinking about.
It did. We traveled all the way. We started at Hanoi at the very north. In fact, we were up on the Chinese border, and we traveled from there all the way down to the Mekong Delta. Wow. The entire length, and we both just saw a lot of Vietnam.
How exciting! And it must have looked a lot different than it did last time
It
you
was
saw it.
interesting is that economically it was like we'd never left. Everybody was riding motor scooters, and everything was kind of, it was almost like nothing had changed a lot.
Wow.
However, when we...
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
We're going to take another break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes, and we'll talk a little bit more about Vietnam. Okay, you're back, and you're back with Lois and Forrest, and he's telling us about this exciting trip that he had to Vietnam. We're going to transition a little bit into Rotary, because part of what he did when he was in Vietnam was a Rotary project, or looking up a Rotary project. So tell us a little bit about the club and what you were doing.
Rotary, I knew nothing about it until I joined it in 1998. A co-worker invited me to come to a Rotary meeting. Rotary is an international organization, and they do a lot of good things in the world, and they have many avenues of service, and they do community work and international. One of the things that, I guess the international part of Rotary was new to me. I didn't know such an organization existed, and I recognized that if you're going to do anything in another country, you just can't be a sole person going over and doing something.
Oh, that's true.
Yes. So you need an organization that's structured for doing that. And
did you learn any language?
I didn't learn the Vietnamese language.
Okay.
No, but when you do a Rotary project, if you're going to go to another country, you have to work with a club in that country.
Okay, so they can be translators and that sort of
No,
thing for
much
you.
more than that, they know the local culture.
There you go. Okay.
Now, Vietnam doesn't allow Rotary in their country.
No kidding.
They
Oh,
don't.
Okay.
So there's still hard feelings from the Vietnam War.
Oh, okay.
So it turns out that this project was designed by some Canadians through the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. So they defined the project to put ICU equipment in the cancer hospital. When my daughter and I went to Vietnam, we had a letter of recommendation from our district governor saying that we were looking for a Rotary project. The chamber was not able to raise funds for this project, and so they cornered us early on and wanted us to be a team with them. So we did team.
That's neat. Yeah.
It was important for the success of the project.
And Vietnam was okay with you working with them, or did you not tell them you were with Rotary?
Oh, no, there's no secrets.
Okay.
The Vietnamese government allows Rotary to do projects in their country, but they don't allow clubs
have
in
a
there.
club there.
You can't have
see.
a club there.
Okay.
So
you found
we
a
were,
project with this woman's help? Or?
That's correct. The project was already defined by the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, and there was 2 men there that had worked with the hospital, but they needed money.
Of course.
And so they looked to us to raise money. So my daughter and I and a lot of other people, we were the fundraisers. We raised funds for the project, and we raised about $1,600 cash, and that was to get the hospital equipment over to Vietnam.
Shipping.
Yeah. Also, we sent people over there to provide training on how to use.
Yeah, you'd need that. I hadn't thought about that.
And we also provided logistical support for a year.
Okay.
And the Vietnamese hospital staff said that they would be able to maintain it if we installed it.
Okay.
And they were very successful at that. They have done that.
And we're going to see a picture here pretty soon, but this one is the picture of you and your daughter?
This picture right here was taken my daughter and I made our trip to Vietnam in 2004. And 2006 is when we actually completed a project and installed the equipment.
Okay, and that's the equipment.
That's the equipment
you?
in the background.
Okay.
And so we were, and Michelle was living in Vietnam at that time. So
that's another story. When she went with you, she didn't come home with you.
She came home with me for a short period. She came home for 6 months, but then she went back to Vietnam to live for the next 10 years.
Oh my gosh, for 10 years she was over there.
She fell in love with the country, with the people.
Great?
And
that is remarkable. And the equipment that you bought was emergency room, or?
It's used in an emergency room, and this cancer hospital was responsible for treating cancer for the lower half of Vietnam. They had a building and they had no equipment, and so it's very difficult to treat. And this was the pediatric ward, so it was for children. So they said the most valuable equipment would be ICU equipment because that way they can meter chemo drugs into children.
Okay.
And they have to monitor their vital signs when they're doing this. And they also cannot be. You need this equipment to give pain medication. So this allowed the hospital to manage pain and to give chemotherapy.
And actually treat those children instead of just standing by them.
Correct.
And watching them.
Yes, it made a huge difference.
Oh, that's wonderful. So there were a lot of children over there with cancer.
There was a lot of children with cancer, and this equipment can handle about 30 children a month.
Oh, that's remarkable.
And it is.
Yeah.
And it's been doing it ever since we delivered it in 2006.
And where is it? What town is it?
It's in Saigon.
Saigon.
It's in downtown Saigon.
Okay.
But they also they handle half of the country's cancer patients.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it handles a lot of people. And we believe, the Vietnamese people believe that most of these kids that are coming in here with cancer actually got it from Agent Orange that we sprayed over there during the war.
Oh, wow.
Can't prove the numbers, but that's what they believe. And so this was a very humanitarian touch.
It would be, yes, especially coming from America.
Correct.
Since they think that probably we did it. So we
Yes,
need to
they
help
hold
them
us
out a little
responsible
bit.
for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about you? Do you think we did that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, but you said earlier when we were
I've got
talking
it.
that it's difficult to prove it one way or the other.
Yeah, I don't know how to prove it. The Clinton administration sent researchers over there to research it, but the funding was cut off before that work was completed.
Oh, okay, so there's still no proof one way or the
So
other.
there's still no proof.
But there still are a lot of young people that are getting cancer.
There is.
And this equipment is helping
And this equipment is helping them.
Okay, so we're getting down to the last minute and a half or so. I want you to tell me what you think you want to tell out there, what you want people to know about your projects and all of that.
Well, I think Rotary is a good tool to use to do humanitarian work either in your own community or in the world.
To join Rotary, you have to be sponsored by a Rotarian?
You have to be sponsored by a Rotarian.
Okay.
And it's mostly made up of people who are mostly business people, but it's not always true. They need people that are willing to give up money, donate money to Rotary, but they also need people who can execute projects. And you need project management skills to do these Rotary projects, just like any project. Rotary projects are no different than any other project.
They're just basic. You have to have operational and planning and all of that goes in with it.
That's correct.
So now your daughter is back in this country?
My daughter returned about 8 months ago. She returned back to the United States, and now she's living down in Huntington Beach.
Okay. What a treat they must have got from her experience.
Yes.
So we have a picture of, who's this?
Okay, this in 2006. I was a Rotary president, and so
Here in Ridgecrest.
Here in Ridgecrest,
Okay.
with the Rotary Club of China Lake.
We're about out of time, so go ahead.
So
Tell me
that's my wife and I at the end of my year, thanking all the people in our club for their support, helping me as well. Me helping
Okay,
them.
so you
them
were
helping
giving
the
out
president.
awards instead of getting them at that
That
point
is correct.
then?
We were
that's
handing out
great.
awards at that
Rotary
time.
is a remarkable club here in town. You have two, actually, I think now, don't we?
We have two.
Well, and if you're interested, you might want to talk to Forrest or somebody that's in it. We're just about out of time. I thank you so much for coming. We could talk for another hour, folks. Maybe we'll have you back.
Okay,
We'll
Lois.
talk some more about this.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. We're out of here.